So a while back, I talked about my desires for a FE9 and FE10 combined remakes. And with these Nintendo Switch 2's announcement on the horizon, probably in just a few days by the time I finally finish editing this, combined with it debuting in April, the month of Fire Emblem's 35th anniversary, and them randomly making Era from FE4 into a legendary unit, seemingly randomly, I have high hopes for this to come April 2nd. So, let's theorycraft once again and see if I can cook, as I rant to you unfortunate viewers about what I want in a FE4 repackaging. Yeah, that's right, I didn't say the title of the video, get wrecked! Number 1. Automated Movement System. Let's be straight here. The maps in Genealogy of the Holy War are massive. It's definitely impressive, but they're too massive. So your footlocked units are left behind, and sometimes you're just not even prepared for an assault whenever you didn't even know you were going to get assaulted. Some ideas people have thrown around to make them less cumbersome is to split the chapters up by castles. So that way, instead of going from Chalfie to Jungbi and Jungbi to Evans, you instead do the Chalfie and Jungbi chapter, and then once you capture that castle, you're then warped and the map changes, and now you're dealing with the Evans stuff. And while this would be a interesting change, I think it would be a change too far. Genealogy is known for its massive maps. Without it, it's just like every other game. On top of that, what are you going to do for maps like Crisis and Augustria, where you have to traverse from the bottom to almost all the way to the top, which wouldn't really deal with the problem because you're still having to deal with massive maps? I think instead there is a simpler change. Whenever you select a unit, you can choose destination. You then choose the spot you want them to end up at, like the Bragi Tower for Du in Chapter 3, or Nordion in Chapter 2 once the main castle is taken care of to prepare for the second half of the map. Plus, by selecting it on each unit means you won't have an issue where an injured unit needs to retreat, but you need to get a different unit to the front lines, so you don't have to pick. Both of them can be moved automatically by the game. Just select the destination, hit end turn, and let the computer move for you. Tedium has been defeated. Also, something else I want to touch on here is how the heck would casual mode work in this game, because that's another thing I've seen people talk about. It could always just not be implemented, but I'd imagine they want to implement it since it allows more people to play these games. Really, what they could do is make it so a defeated unit retreats back to the home castle and won't be deployable until you capture the next castle in the line. Plus, there could be a baby mode for babies, where getting defeated just sends you back to the main castle, but you can just redeploy immediately. Human wave tactics! Number 2. Choose gold transfer amount. Money makes the world go round, who the richest? Mother do. That's who, because with his ability to steal gold, allows him as well the ability to give his gold to anyone, not just his spouse. But it comes with a caveat. You can't choose how much Du forks over. So while you may be considering to give Lachesis some gold to help her buy the Paragon Band, you end up giving her all of her gold, leaving poor Du nothing to repair his own weapons or buy a ring of his own. Literally just adding a step before the confirmation of an amount value would be greatly appreciated. Number 3. Road reworking. Roads were implemented into the game to assist in Genealogy's giant maps, to make them less giant. They did this by decreasing the cost of movement each time you used a movement point on them. Here's the thing. They kinda made the issues worse in a weird roundabout way. They usually give an infantry unit 1 extra point of movement, whereas cavalier units gain anywhere from 2 to 3 extra points of movement on top of their already higher movement from being on horseback, so the foot units got left behind even farther. They can fix this in a very easy way of making it a simple formula. Mounted units' movement on roads costs 3/4 of the normal amount, meanwhile infantry unit movement on roads costs half. This means that on average, mounted units can get 10 or 11 movement depending on how the game rounds it, or 12 movement once promoted. Meanwhile, infantry units can move either 10, 12, or 14 spaces. This will allow them to catch up or even get ahead, so that when they go off-road inevitably and lose the bonus movement, they'll be ahead, so the Cavalier's bonus movement will mean they end up at the destination at around the same time. And while 10 movement Arden terrifies me, I think it would help to give infantry a reason to exist, on top of letting me have my beloved Do, when promoted and with the leg green, move 20 spaces and T-pose on top of every single other unit because that is the Do difference. Number 4. Skill issues. Skills were one of the new, interesting things FE4 introduced to not only let you customize the second generation more, but also to do something more interesting and fun with each combat. Who knows? Aira might not kill this unit based on the available stats, but there's always a chance, always a possibility, that she sparkles green and unleashes a powerful barrage of 5 attacks. However, I do have some minor gripes. Luna and Sol can only be activated if you're an infantry sword unit, so unless Do or Kulain are marrying Aira, Tailtu, Brigid, or Sylvia, those skills go entirely unused, and even then, only on Patty, only on Lean, and only when Tine promotes and is using a sword. So just removing pointless restrictions like that would be very nice, because it allows you to customize your second generation even more. I also think that there should be more rings in general, because when you think about it, Bargain, Pursuit, Renewal, Steal, and technically Canto and Return are the only skills attached to rings. And while they may be essential skills, what about more niche skills that could see new uses when spread about? Plus, maybe even having a few duplicates, because, let's be real here, would reality shatter before our eyes if we had more than one barrier ring? Probably not. The skill Critical is oftentimes seen as kind of pointless because, well, just get 50 kills on a weapon. But what if you wanted a unit to have more utility right outside the gate? Like, for instance, I don't know, Do? Like, if you wanted to make Do more useful, you could give him the critical ring and thus give him a skill percent chance to activate the skill that he would need to get 50 kills on a weapon, which would be pretty hard in general. He can get that skill early. Another skill that could get niche uses once it's on a ring is the Charm skill, because that means that any character can now just be a better support unit. Idane is already a pretty good support unit, albeit she's minorly outclassed by a promoted Lachesis and Ethlin because they have mounts. Well, why not just give her the Charm skill? That way she can heal and give her allies an additional bonus to hit and avoid. Oh, but well, Lachesis can do that and fight with a sword. Yes, but now you have 2 different uses of Charm on top of Sigurd's leadership stars, giving your units, whenever they're in those 3 spaces, plus 30 to hit and avoid, and that is a seriously considerable amount. Miracle, Nihil, Wrath, I think these skills could have a much better utility if we had some versions of rings to go along with them. Let me bedazzle all 10 of Bridget's fingers so I can show her that I am truly her strongest soldier. Number 5. Pairing Foresight. Look, this really isn't necessary for replays or people who just have an idea of what game this is, but for a first-time player, how is a player supposed to know that pairing Tailtu and Claude is a terrible idea and one of the worst things you could do? Awakening taught us that if 2 units spawn on the same map, chances are the kid that comes from that pairing is going to be pretty good. Granted, it's a little hard to screw up any kids in Awakening, but the same chapter pairings from Awakening work out quite well. Meanwhile, this game's idea of same join time pairings is far worse. Idane and Do, Sylvia and Lewin, these pairings are terrible. And not even what the game tells you can be trusted, as while Azel, Jamp, and Midir vie for Idane, Azel is a really bad choice, as this will give the archer a mage father, and the only skill he'd inherit would be Pursuit, compared to Adept and Charge, or Pursuit and Critical. So I think just like a little advice on who their kids are going to be, maybe make it so in the augury you could ask for a vision of the future where you'll learn the classes of their children. So send Idane in there and you'll learn that her kids are a bow knight and a cleric, so you can better plan for what's coming. Number 6. Holy Blood Speciality. Now this is my most crazy idea, so you're gonna have to hear me out about this one. Claude is in a really sucky position when it comes to marriage. The Valkyria staff is incredibly useful since it allows you to, for 30k gold, revive a dead unit, allowing for absolutely insane suicide strats or a net to catch you when you do something incredibly stupid. Like me. The issue is that passing it on is incredibly annoying. Sylvia is your best bet, since she's not really in high demand for partners, as her son is a priest like Claude, and her daughter, Lean, as a dancer, doesn't need to be a good fighter since she can rely on her refreshing to be considered good. However, some people choose not to marry Sylvia, since the replacements for her kids have access to things Corpora and Lean never can, like the Barrier Blade to buff resistance when equipped, Charm to buff her allies hit and avoid, or the Berserk Staff to make the enemies fight amongst themselves. So, who else can Claude marry if he wants to pass down his staff? Aranis. That's it. And that's a horrible option because while Ced's bases are good enough to not be ruined by his father's awful inheritance, Fie, his sister, and someone you get in the first chapter of the second generation, is ruined, having no skills outside pursuit, awful physical stats, and only marginally better magical stats as a Pegasus Knight. Sure, she'll be able to wield higher ranked staves whenever she, promotes, but that's a horrible niche to have. So you either marry Claude to Sylvia, ruin Fie, or the staff goes entirely unused. So here's my idea. Make it so if you have Holy Blood, you gain access to that weapon regardless of class. Albeit if it's minor blood, it's just B rank. This wouldn't matter a whole lot for some characters. Wow, the Swordmaster can use swords so good. But this can create some interesting options. Edain can now use bows to protect herself until she promotes and gains magic. Seliph can use low-level light magic to give him some range before he gets javelins on promotion. But here's the thing. It makes the second generation even crazier than it already is. If you marry Lewin to Aira, then congrats. You get Forseti and all of its buffs on turn 1 of the second generation. Lester can't protect himself at one range, and Lana cannot fight at all until she promotes, so marry Kulain to Edain to give both of her children immediate access to swords to protect themselves. Lex can't pass on his brave axe to anyone? Now he can. And just imagine Patty, precious as she is, with an axe bigger than she is, with a guaranteed double. Marrying Aira to Azel sounds stupid, but imagine Larce and Skahawk with fire magic. Is this stupid? Yes. But I still want it, dang it. Number in between, because I thought of this literally while I was editing this video and didn't really know how to slot it in with all the others. But like, you know the Deadlords, the guys that protect Julius in the final chapter. Okay, this is a very far out there idea, but I think it would be cool as heck if those guys were the first generation, because like basically all of the first generation dies in the Battle of Belhala. There's a few that get away, it's stated that it's specifically stated that Edain survives the battle because you can see her, because you hear her being in the castle that Seliph starts in the second generation, and dancer lady, I forget her name, Sylvia is stated to have dropped off her kids at an orphanage and not be dead. So like a few of them get away, but like I think that like that'd be a really cool change, because like not only can you get, unique interactions depending on who the parents were, also, I just think that'd be really cool to see the characters that you built, the characters you customized, the pairings you have, come together to face the pairings you made in the first generation. And like the AI would favor being spaced next to other units. Like if you married Azel to Tine, that's a bit of a. If you married Azel to Tailtu, then Azel wouldn't use all of his movement to stay next to her. But if he had married say Aranis instead, somebody who's on a mount, he would move more of his spaces, so he'd be more of a bigger threat. I think that'd be really cool. I didn't know where to fit this in I literally thought of it while I was checking my save states to see if I had a save state of like later in the game so I could use it for footage. Anyways, thank you for listening to my unhinged rant. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Number 7. Avatar. Oh yeah, I'm bringing up an Avatar again. Look, I am a simple human being. You give me the option to have my OC kiss hot ladies like Tail2 and Bridget, I'm gonna want that. But just like last time, I think the OC needs to be mostly separate from the main plot. Not that they shouldn't talk, we don't need a second Neo-Wish on our hands, but mostly that they shouldn't be too important. Don't do something like, ooh, this character has Naga blood and Lapter blood, ooh, what does that mean, ooh? Or something even stupider like, yes, thank you OC for helping me fight the good fight against Chagall. Have my wife as your wife instead, because that would just entirely ruin the plot. I think a good compromise is the player character being a simple mercenary, not their actual class, just their occupation. They spawn in after Gandalf retreats with his new kidnapped bride, and Gerard decides that paying that suspicious mercenary in the castle he took over to deal with Sigurd's army is a good idea. Then you just need Sigurd to talk to your own unit to recruit them, or let them kill his elves for the funnies. Whatever you choose to do. You can have minor customization of them like in previous titles, such as starting class, starting gender, and one instance of minor holy blood. So you can choose to be a pirate and could supplement your starting weapon rank so you can start out with A rank axes instead of B, or, alternatively, let you, the pirate, wield staves to be a support unit, as well as a combat unit. As for skills, I think the best option would be a capacity sort of thing, where you have, 4 points to spend on skills, and certain skills cost a certain amount. Making Wrath 3 points and Pursuit 2 points, so you can't get both, but if you wanted to, say, get Wrath and Miracle, you could, or you could pick, say, Pursuit and Critical, or something along those lines. Maybe you decide to pick every single 1-point skill just to pass on as many skills as possible to the second generation. Speaking of the second generation, the thing Genealogy is, mildly based around, I think the easiest way to do this is to have it be so you have kids regardless of gender. Your kids' classes would be dependent on 2 questions asked to you by Oife at the start of Chapter 3 and Chapter 5, and your kids will spawn either with their siblings, so if you're a male and you married Aira, Seliph is starting his journey with 5 allies instead of 3, or if you married Bridget, Patty would have her brother with her, and then in the next chapter, Fabale would have his sister with her, or alternatively, I don't know, make it random. That'd be kind of funny. But, have it before a certain point, the last characters you would get would obviously be Hannibal and Corpore and Altina, so maybe just having them spawn randomly before you get to the final castle in Chapter 8. I think that would be a good compromise. That way, they're gonna show up at some point. Who knows when. This all ties into my biggest desire for this theoretical remake. Number 8. Randomizer. So with all of these changes being made, imagine if Nintendo did what the modders love to do and make an official randomizer. Sure, you probably couldn't swap out models or ask every single voice actor to voice act every possible line in the game, but God, the idea of an official randomizer sounds so awesome. Sigurd Mage, Do as a Master Knight, Dark Mage Aira, and then when you combine that with the changes I suggested in this video, and you start to realize how amazing this really is. Not only do you have improved roads to allow you to use your randomized infantry units more, but the various Holy Bloods can create insane pairing options. For instance, let's say that Edain spawns as a Pegasus Knight with Renewal and Adept, Odd Blood, and Thread Blood. Now you check, and her kids are a Myrmidon and a Axe Rider, so now instead of marrying your usual pairing for her, you decide to make a crazy pairing and marry her to Alec, who has Pursuit, Odd Blood, and Bragi. That way, you can pass down major Odd Blood and Pursuit to those kids, something the Axe Rider needs, but also, both of them have access to the Balmung, cause why not give it to a Cavalier? Make the one standout feature of Shannon entirely irrelevant! But still, that'd be awesome. If FA4 gets announced, that's because my uncle works at Nintendo and he tells me secrets. And if I get any of these wrong, leave a comment and tell me how wrong I am. If it does get announced, I'll do a waifu ranking of the entire series.